Right, so symbols. When you get into the more, you've seen it already, when we get into the more advanced stuff, we do, a form of regression to clear trauma that's kind of stuck in the wrong parts of the brain, basically. This symbols, if you do it in a specific way, can work on the same thing. So symbols are something that you do with someone if they've got an emotion, either in their body or an emotion comes into the room. It's really powerful. So in working with symbols, like I said, I've had people where fears go instantly, where big changes, people with anxiety, and tell me where the anxiety, where it sits in their body, and we clear that feeling that's sitting in the body. And when I try to say to them afterwards, just try to feel anxious, go and think about what you were thinking about, think about going into town, think about going to your friend's place, they just can't feel that feeling. That's what can happen when we're doing this kind of process. It's very quick, it's very easy, and the client's mind does most of the work, which I like. Whereas when we do the deeper stuff, we kind of get in there with them. So doing symbols is really a safe way to work on emotions. When I say emotions, we're not really talking, it's interesting, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, those kind of things. We tend to name, being a human, we tend to name or try to understand how we're feeling. So say we have this emotion come into the room and we call it fear, or we call it I'm feeling sad. But when we're doing symbols, we're trying to target a specific area in the body where that feeling starts or sits. And a lot of the time it is just tied into one of these implicit memories, and implicit memory is a memory that's been, like I said earlier, stored incorrectly. We won't go too much into that because that is a whole day in itself, talking about trauma in the mind and stuff. It's not always that, but a lot of the time if we can pinpoint and target where an emotion is sitting, it's actually a memory which has a lot of emotions and things connected to it. A trigger, basically, you walk into a room and you see something and you get triggered and an emotion comes up. Most of the time you don't even know why it's there. So when we're doing symbols, the best way to do it is to not target an emotion. So you can do this if someone said, I felt really pissed off last week. Okay, well, can you think about that moment? And when you think about that moment, can you bring that feeling up? If they say yes, you can do it, but it's not as effective as it would be if an emotion came into the room on its own. So this is quite a style of hypnosis that's quite direct. So someone might start, and it will feel weird at first because we have to cut in on people. Someone will start talking to you about their issue, right? So someone will come in and start talking to you about, I've got this thing going on, I'm not feeling confident. And the minute you see a change in their personality, the minute you see them start to get teary, or the minute you see them start to get wound up, you know that they're starting to get emotional. That is the time you'd stop them instantly. And I would literally say, they might be halfway through a sentence and starting to get emotional. I'll say, just stop for a moment and close your eyes. Where do you feel that feeling in your body? This is how we work, and it will feel, like I said, it will feel weird at first because you're cutting in on someone halfway through a sentence, and it feels a little bit disrespectful at first. If you can cut in instantly as the emotion comes up and close your eyes, then you know that they actually got a trigger coming through and you're dealing with this trauma type stuff. Like I said, we don't need to know what it is. Whereas if you targeted it, I want you to think about that thing. And when you think about that thing, what emotion comes up and where does it sit? So that's dealing with two kind of different things. Whereas with symbols, if you want it to be really effective, it's as soon as an emotion steps in. You see a person step into an emotion or slide, as I call it, by their eyes will start to be a bit different. They might start, their voice might change and be a bit, shaky because they're stepping into whatever is influencing that situation. So with symbols, we're using visualization. letting someone in the room. So generally symbols would be done at the start. It wouldn't be done as part of the hypnotherapy session. It doesn't need a induction because the heightened emotion is hypnosis 100%. A heightened emotion, somebody laughing, somebody crying, can be a way stronger trance than doing an induction. Can be a way stronger. Like if you got someone to close their eyes and send relaxation through their body and then think about love or think about, this beautiful feeling, they're in a much deeper level of trance at that time than if we were just relaxing them down and counting numbers. So when an emotion naturally comes into the room, they're in a really good state of trance, especially a negative emotion, because when we have a trigger or a negative emotion, the mind opens up and scans the room to look for what the danger is, and then to take a snapshot of that danger and to send it in. And if it is an implicit memory, to slam it on the other memories that are associated, creating a new trigger response. So when someone starts to get emotional and we stop them, we're stopping them as their mind's coming out to scan to see what's causing the issue, and we're actually instructing it to do something, which is, okay, where's that feeling in the body? Get that feeling out and change it. With symbols, it's not 100% that you'll get that feeling gone completely, but you'll definitely make a change of that feeling. If there is deep trauma and stuff associated to that, you'll probably get a bit of a shift and not the whole thing. But that's where you learn more of the trauma stuff. But like I said, a lot of the time you can, it just freaking goes. So basically they've come into the room, the client starts getting emotional, whether it be anxious or even a family member, or I do this kind of stuff anywhere. My hairdresser, she's talking to me and starts getting emotional, I slam her half with dye in her hands. So you can do this on anyone. So an emotion comes in, that's if they're prepared to do it. You just get them to close their eyes and you get them straight into their bodies. So the emotion is there. Close your eyes. Where do you feel it? Where do you feel that feeling in your body? They might start to be shaky. We never call it a name. So and if it comes in organically and we see they're starting to be sad, if we were to say, where does that sadness sit in your body? It's not sadness, it's a trigger. It may feel like or present or look like to us sadness, but it will be a mix of lots of different feelings tied up into one place. And so we always talk about the feeling. So close your eyes. Where do you feel that feeling in your body? And it's about getting them down. Some people don't know how to do that straight away because they're not used to feeling. So if they don't know what to say instantly, you'll say, some people say it's in their heart or their stomach. Where is that feeling sitting in your body? So you can give them a bit of a guide, and they'll usually put their hand, because the front part of their brain is offline at that moment because they've been triggered. They'll usually tap their chest. You guys would have seen that when I've done it before. They'll say, oh, it's here. When you can find out the area it's in, we want to go a little bit deeper. So we want to know what it feels like. And it's not necessarily a word like it feels like sadness. No. We want a sensation. What's the sensation? They say, oh, it's a tight feeling in my chest, or it's a sick feeling in my stomach, or if you've got spiritual people, it's a twirling feeling in my solar plexus. So we want to really get where it is, what it feels like. The stronger the feeling, the quicker that is. And so from there, you just get the client to imagine pulling that feeling out and holding it into their hand. So basically, if you look at all the hypnotherapy, like I said on day one, problem state, dissociate from the problem, change the problem, bring them back into the room without the problem. Well, for us, we're putting a solution in, changing the symbol. This is the same thing. So they've got the feeling, we've got them to close their eyes, we've asked where they feel it in their body, we've asked what it feels like. We've got them to imagine pulling it out and holding it in their hand. Some people really pull this shit out, like they're like go to town because it's heavy, it feels like a rope, and they're holding it in their hand. So you can get them to even put their hand out. Some people actually put their hand out and hold it in their hand. Their eyes are closed, and when it's in the hand, you ask them what does it look like. I don't usually say shape and color. I just ask what it looks like. If they get a bit confused, I'll say, does it have a shape? What color is it? I ask if it had a voice, what is it saying? That can confuse people because for some people it doesn't have a voice. And I always say it's okay if it's not saying anything. But a lot of the time, if it does have a voice, it's generally not their voice. And when it's not their voice, this is not their shit. And when it's not their shit, it's so easy to clear. We just throw it into the corner of the room. We ask them, what does it look like now, this voice? And they'll say, it looks like my mum. Okay. In the other corner, open up a light. Beautiful light. It's going to take that energy home. And I want you to send that energy of mum home when she's gone. This is not your shit. And that's the hypnotic part of it, actually telling them this is not your shit. You don't need to carry this anymore. When it's gone, let me know this is not your stuff. And you can look at it in two ways, the spiritual way, the science way. For me, if someone's carrying this energy in their body and it has a voice, someone could scream things with you when you're little, and then that voice actually continues and that becomes one of your inner critics, but it's not actually your voice. When you actually listen to it, it's your mum's voice or an ex-boyfriend's voice or a teacher's voice that called you useless. So if we're just looking at it, it becomes, in a sciencey way, it becomes like an inner critic, a voice that attacks you all the time. In a spiritual way, I call it a thought form. So someone's sent energy your way, it contains a voice. It's almost like an entity energy type thing. And it continues to talk to you, talk down to you, but it's not your energy. And so when people send it into the corner, realize it's not there, send it away, the voice goes like instant. I've had people who have had voices in their heads for a long time and they're just gone because it wasn't theirs in the first place. It doesn't actually belong to them. So that's why I always ask if it had a voice, what would it say? If it said it's my voice, that's cool. And you just get an idea for what that shape is. You can still just keep on going to changing the shape. It will give you a bit of an idea. But quite a lot of the time they say it's not my voice. Very, very, very often when you ask that question. So from there, so say if they said it's a spiky, you hear spiky all the time. It's a spiky black mess, or you hear sludge or something like that. From there, you ask them, what needs to change about, or what do you want to do to it to let it go today? So you could ask them what needs to change to make that feeling go. But a lot of the time I just say, what do you want to do to it? Like if they say to it, it's like you might have heard yesterday, someone said a big bit of slime. I just want to bury it. Someone might say it's a big heavy ball. I just want to throw it away. So you ask them, what do they want to do to that to let that go? And then you get them to do it. It's got to be their picture. It can't be suggested, and what they do to it can't be suggested. They do have to. They have to come up. Their mind has to create the solution. I'm just going to write here. Ask the client. Put it in brackets. What do you want to do? Does it make sense to completely? That makes sense. You get the gist anyway. And from there, once it's gone, we need to replace it something. So if they're changing it to a different color or a different shape to get rid of it, let me know when it's done. So with them, once if they're throwing it away or getting rid of it, so just say to them, just let me know when it's gone, and then you need to replace it with something. So if they've changed the symbol to a new symbol, then you can get them to place the new symbol back into their body with a suggestion of feeling calm or good or free. So put a suggestion in there with it. You can, if they haven't changed it with a new, if they change one symbol to another symbol, so they've just gotten rid of it, you can either get them to imagine a beautiful light coming in through the top of their head, filling every part of them with that light, especially the area where that old feeling was sitting, that language of, or you could get them to imagine, sometimes I get people to imagine then holding a beautiful glowing ball full of unconditional love and placing that into the area where the old feeling was. And this old here is really important that that is said, because it's really hypnotically telling them that that feeling's gone, the suggestion of it's gone, putting it where the old feeling was. and then after you've done that, you get them to open their eyes.
Justine.
Yeah.
Question. So you said before that it's important that the client is the one, their mind comes up with the how do you want to get rid of it bit, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about a new symbol, so that's just like the golden light, or that's what you mean by a new symbol, I take it. So do they have to come up with that?
Nah.
Or can you suggest?
You just do whatever. So I usually just do a golden light coming down on top of them, because I do that for everybody. And I tell them, so for me, I always just generally say, I want you to imagine this beautiful golden light. This is unconditional love. It's available to all of us always. I like that, have that saying. But even like suggesting, if you did suggest you've got a beautiful ball of love, or you can ask them, I want you now to create a new symbol that represents, if they are feeling anxious, you could say calmness, and get them to create that new symbol. Sometimes it's easier just to tell them, because the work's, once the feeling's gone, the work's been done. The more is just, for me, in the past when I used to do this kind of work, when we did clear something, people would feel as if there was a hole. Like, say if we cleared a big feeling out of their tummy when we woke up, they'd say, oh, it feels really good, but it feels like a hole. And so I realized really quickly that we can't leave people with a gap.
Yeah.
And so that's why we fill that area up with something good. But yeah, you can ask them what they want. A lot of the time, it's just easier in that part to just suggest it, because at that point the feeling's gone, so they're back in the front part of their mind and analysing everything. Their brains switch back on again. So, but you really, with this kind of work, it's all intuitive. So as long as they pull the feeling out, release it in whatever way, and have put something new and positive in their body, it's going to have an effect. And you might find there's people do this, when you look at this kind of symbol work, people have, all these different imaginative pictures to do it. When I get deeper, when you get deeper into this kind of work, if I get someone to pull out a feeling because they won't go back in regression, I'll get them to hold the feeling. And then I ask them, what age does this feeling start? I want you to see a child come into the room and hold on to that feeling. And I'll say, oh, there's a 2-year-old. Okay, I want you to sit down with a 2-year-old. What does she need? So, you can go so deep into this, or you can make it so easy. So for now, you just start with the easy way. And then you'll probably end up creating something from this that's really healing, especially if you work intuitively. The biggest goal is the client has the feeling, we dissociate from the feeling, we change it to a positive. We put the positive back into the body when they open their eyes, feeling gone. Or mostly gone, as long as there's an effect. And like I said, if when you get into deeper stuff, someone might be coming to you for weight loss, or for smoking, or for something really, confidence or self-esteem, something real basic. And they walk into the room and they sit down and they're really frustrated. They've had a shitty morning and they just break down crying, right? And you just stop them, close your eyes. Where do you feel it in your body? The one thing I've found from all my freaking years of doing this shit is that the emotion that comes into the room the first emotion that comes into the room, no matter what they are talking about, even if it's completely unrelated, when we do going back, tends to always be the emotion or the trauma that needs to be cleared for the reason they come. It's almost like the mind knows, right, we're going to go to her, we're going for this, and they bring in this random ass emotion that starts coming out when they're talking about something completely unrelated. But when we go back, it's like that is exactly why they're coming for. And so the mind, I always trust now that the client's mind knows the deal. So if the client comes in and we're doing one thing, but they're suddenly talking to you about something totally unrelated, go with it and watch for the emotion, because what their mind is doing is bringing into the room what needs to be brought into the room to get the result, because their mind knows exactly what needs to happen to get a result. And it's never straightforward. Our minds are not, they're just not. You can look at people's lives and just think, holy, I don't know, I can kind of see the pattern, but some of the stuff is just like out the gate. I had a lady who every job she'd ever been in, she was a creator. So she'd start businesses, or she'd go in and take people's stuff that they're doing and create something. And it didn't matter whatever business she went in, it seemed that she'd get them working, she'd get the system working good, and then they'd send her on and hire someone younger and cheaper. And so she had this real thing of, people always rip me off, people take my stuff. Her husband was taken by her best friend. She had this story of being things are taken from me, and it was just insane. We could follow this path. And so when we followed that feeling back that she had when she started talking about, this new job, I'm having to leave now, and they did the same thing again. The minute I got everything working good, they made me redundant, and now someone else is taking over, and they don't know, so she's getting into the story, and I slammed her back. And no shit, this is where it went. This one makes me crack up. So we have a little 5-year-old girl. She started school. She's going to her first little disco thing. Her mum buys her a special dress. She feels like a princess. She walks in the room, and another bloody girl has the same dress on. That was it. And that was the start of her lovely little life, of her mind moving her towards people taking things away from her. And you could literally, from that moment on, when that emotion came in, because once you have an emotion, your brain's scanning for it and knows how to pick it. It's going to point out all of those things. So of course her mind is telling her that every situation is doing that, but that's what her perception is. People take things from me. So of course she's walking into jobs where she's building things up, where probably the possibility of her being sent away is quite high, because she's only filling a creation space. But that's what our mind does. But it went back to a bloody dress in a 5-year-old party. So that's why I say, when we work out why people's minds do what they do, it's never ever what we think. And that's why when we do the deeper trauma work, where someone's had like maybe sexual abuse from 5 till 12, I never seem to touch on that ever. Once in a blue moon will we ever even need to deal with that, because when we work on the feeling that someone comes in with, it tends to go all the way back to something really tiny, which then started a personality type that maybe a predator would attack more than a loud, outgoing child. So we always seem to, not saying it's child's fault, I'm saying that abusive people tend to target people that won't talk, or people that can be manipulated and stuff as little children. So it seems that when I am working with full-on abuse stuff, we never need to clear it. We always go back to this one time that I ran up with mummy with this picture, and mum was on the phone and she didn't look. She said, shh, wait a minute. Oh my God, and that's life over. I'm never talking again, keeping my mouth shut. It's safer to be quiet, and so when even in extreme trauma, I tend to never have to actually deal with the trauma to get the feelings and the emotions and the perception changed, which for me is what I've always wanted to be able to do, is help people without having to actually sit in the bullshit. And so where I'm going with that is we're still kind of doing a similar thing here. We don't know where the start of this feeling was when we're doing symbols. All we're doing specifically is asking the mind to create the change. The mind knows. We said, right, what needs to happen to let this feeling go today? Using visualization, the subconscious mind works in images and patterns, numbers, that kind of thing. It doesn't work in words. That's our front part of our brain. Our subconscious, when we talk, when we input information, it's picturing it and putting it in with other memories and matching it all up to the bigger picture. So it works very well in the images. And if people are not visual, it's still about feeling it. They only, like I said, 20% of people have a strong ability to visualize, a strong inner eye. The rest of us have some form of it, and some of us not at all. So they don't even need to see it. They need to, the mind will interpret it in the way it does. So what would it be? What would it be? Just whatever comes to mind, what would it be? Oh, it's a red triangle, sweet, okay. Because a lot of the time you'll get something very, what you would call, what's that word called for something, and you, like metaphoric. So I've had people that pull out a pot of, or like a kettle that's almost overflowing, and so it is representative of someone that's going to lose it. And so, of course, when I say, what do you want to do? I want to empty it. I need to empty it and let it be free. So it can be quite metaphoric, or it can just be sometimes it doesn't make any bloody sense. Quite often I hear it's a big tangled mess of wool. Okay, what do you need to do? I need to straighten it. And so you'll see them sitting there straightening it. But the feeling goes. And so whatever is computing in the background of the mind, don't know what that is. It's this stuff going on, big stuff going on in the background, but all we know is that we're just untangling some wool. Funny, eh? But it's our mind, yeah.
I was just going to ask about pain. So I can imagine this working really well with pain. If you've got a patient coming in, you get them to close their eyes. You get them to focus on where the pain is in the body.
Okay, so, Marie, this is the crazy stuff about pain, because a lot of the time a chronic pain is actually like I said, an emotion stuck or a trauma stuck in the pain part of the brain. The best thing to do is to clear the frustration that they have around the pain. And so when I work with pain, it's like, I hear you're getting migraines and stuff. How is it affecting you? And they start saying, I can do anything. I can't even work anymore. And they get really like, ugh. Okay, close your eyes. Where do you feel in the body? So instead of, you can work on the pain, and it will probably dull the pain and do that kind of thing. But it's more so much, I'll give you a great example about that. I've got lots of them about pain. One is a lady came for back pain on ACC, hadn't been able to work for a long time. When she said to me, when I got her to start talking about her pain, she said, oh, it's so confusing. It's not always there and it's thing. And so I worked on the confusing feeling. Oh, where do you feel it in your body? Because she couldn't even tell me why and when it happens. It's just there and it's not there and it's just a big mess. And some days she feels great and the other day she's like bedridden. And we followed that feeling back. And have I told you the story about the woman in the car crash? Probably not. Okay, so we followed this feeling back, and it went back to around the time she did initially hurt her back, but it wasn't about that. So she had been in a relationship with a guy for a very long time, and she met a woman, fell absolutely in love with a woman, left the boyfriend for this chick, and then was with her happily, and then they had a big balmy fight. So she was driving back to have a chat with the guy and she crashed. The guy saved her. She did hurt her back. They got married, they have children living here, right? 10, 20 years later or whatever. Back pain ever since. Bad back pain. So I said to her, so we went to that space, and it is done in a way, just, in that regression and start way. Basically, the confusion was around whether she made the right choice. And so when she explained to her, when she sat back and saw, well, I did, because I've got these beautiful kids and he supported me and stuff. When we resolved that actual feeling around that time, when she opened her eyes, she hasn't had back pain since. So the way I see it is, like I said, sometimes the emotion of the event gets stored incorrectly and becomes a pain response. It makes sense, but then and that's why no matter how hard the doctor tries, they scan, they look, they do everything right, they take pills, the pain just doesn't bloody go away, and they're being told from everyone, it's just that, look, it's in your head. We don't mean it in a bad way, but where the fault lies is in your head, and we can't work with that. Well, we can in hypnosis. I have got so many. Another example was a chick that, same thing. She was on ACC, really bad back pain. She felt stuck, man. She felt stuck. It's just a really driven banker. And it was really getting to her. She had a bit of a collapsed disc thing, but that was all sorted, but the pain was continuing. Now, she wanted to go overseas. She didn't want to be here. She did not want to be here, right? But the boyfriend at the time didn't want to travel, and so she was in this thing, conundrum. Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Really want to go. So we worked on that. She bought herself, no shit, it didn't clear straight away. She bought herself tickets to go on travel and told him, come or not come, I'm going. No pain ever since. It's all tied into an emotion stored there. And like I said, when we have a memory, it passes through the limbic system, and then it passes through, I'm sure, I have to get this, I don't know if basal ganglia is the right word, the funny shaped one. And there is the pain center, the memory then goes through the pain center, and what I reckon is it passes through enough, and then it fuses into the pain center instead. And from then on, and it gives a signal into the body. So instead of anxiety, it comes through as pain instead. So when we clear that memory or whatever it is, it moves on and timestamps and gets out of the way, which switches the pain off. That's the only way I can kind of explain how we can have such a massive, like, pain gone. And hypnotherapy is great for pain gone. That arrow technique that's in the thing, he does that on hundreds of thousands of people for pain, and it's so effective. And to me, I believe 100% it's not pain that's present and needed. It's this old pain that's tied into an emotion or a time. Gone.
Justine, could you go over that arrow, or do we not do this?
Oh, it's in that book. What was it? Yeah, I'll just ask Kerry, what were you going to say?
Oh, you made mention before about secondary gains, and with the pain one, any things to share about that?
Yeah, it's just, so when you are, this is the difference between working with someone, once again, that's being sent in through ACC or being sent in through counselling or something like that. And this is the mind stuff and pain, and even weight loss. You've got to look down deep into secondary gain. You learned that rocking, so brilliant question to ask. When you know that they are in good and rocking, is there any secondary gain? Because subconscious, superconscious doesn't lie. Consciously, they'll fight that one, but it always makes me laugh because it's generally always a yes, and then I just ask to clear it. But with secondary gain, what tends to happen is the problem that they have really is suiting them at the time. So someone with chronic back pain that doesn't want to work, that is on ACC, one, they're not going to voluntarily come in for hypnotherapy because it is effective, but if they get made to come in, you'll probably end up giving them really good pain techniques, but their mind probably won't let it go. And if it did, I don't even know if it would stay on for long, because the secondary gain is high. Of course, we can, if we were working with a client for quite a few sessions, by clearing emotions and stuff, the secondary gain will go. But not if it's something real physical like your income. I've heard of people, like I had this one lady who got rid of fibro, and then it came back because her husband and boys stopped doing anything around the house and stuff. So it was an instant starting to feel tired again at night, instant switch on. And she didn't do it on purpose. It's not consciously. I'm consciously going to lie down and pretend. It is the body flicking the switches. This person has had too much. The nervous system is overwhelmed. The overwhelm is slammed back on them by having to do all the stuff, and the system shuts down. It's a deep level thing. So that's where secondary gain kind of fits in. If I was working with, someone to do with, say, weight loss for 5 sessions, and I knew there was a bit of secondary gain there, to me, secondary gain would be if there was a deep underlying, because of abuse or something, fear of relationships, and the weight was being held to make them underneath or kind of attractive to not find a partner. The body will cover areas. Of course, we work with that anyway. We work with self-esteem, confidence, clearing feelings. Even this way, it's really effective. So the secondary gain will cut out. Real physical things like secondary gain and smoking. I've worked with people that want to give up smoking, but at their job, they can sneak out for a smoke, but there's no way in hell they could sneak out for a breath of fresh air. It's just not going to happen,
And that one also you talked about yesterday of with weight and smoking, a lot of people, the smoking helps them keep slim. Yeah.
Yeah, there's and the thing is, when you, like I said, this is why it's good not to do a one-off. It's why it's good to, maybe it doesn't matter what people come for, to have 3 sessions, even for smoking, because what you do is you do 2 sessions with them and have the 3rd one. Look, in the next 12 months, there is a session here. You can use it now as a 3rd session. You can hold on to it and you can use it for anything you want. But have it there just in case there is a slip up. Like if the response of someone, say smoking was something that's done all the way through their life when shit hits the fan, and you work with smoking and you work and you do all this stuff, and you make them feel good and they stop smoking, and then a parent dies, which is massive in our profession, parents dying, even if they're not close. Sometimes it's even worse if they haven't spoken for a while. There's a lot of stuff around parents. And their nervous system suddenly gets wired and fired, and it's on. The brain's going to compute. What have I done in the past? Smoke. Okay. And that's what you're there for. Doesn't say it was always going to happen. It might just go to a different behavior. But if they know that they've got this lucky ticket that they can come back to you anytime, and you've got to put a time limit on it, just in case you go out of the professional, I don't know, but so you do put a time limit on it for 6 months, but you can really work that way, even if it's like exam stress or something like that people come for, or performance. It is good to do. I work with you for 3 sessions. We do as many as we need. We might only need to do 2. The 3rd one, we hold on to it if you want to, or you can, in 4 weeks' time, let's catch up. We'll use it then for the basic stuff. Like I said, if you are working with other things, deeper things, you could do more sessions. And what I'm going to put this hypno change coach thing together in the next few weeks. I've got it here. I just need to format it and get the logo made, and so you can even call yourself that. And if you want to go along down that kind of line as well, it would be that process is more about getting them from where they are now to where they want to be in the big picture. And so that's kind of a process you could work through with people as well. And you'll find with more more open-minded spiritual people, they're more looking for that. They're wanting a life change. They're wanting to be really happy. And that's a journey of exploring the different areas in their life and what that looks like. Heading back, we were talking about secondary gain. So the secondary gain is another reason why you could do the most amazing sessions and be the best hypnotist in the world. It's not always going to get the effect that they want. It just isn't. And it's not actually got to do with your ability. It's got to do with where they're at in their life, if everything is tied up, what stuff is in the background, and what are the benefits that they're getting actually out of having that. And if something is real and present, so if I'm working with a woman for weight loss again, and the body is holding weight because it's the way her body responds to trauma and an overwhelmed nervous system, and she's going home to a very unhealthy, narcissistic relationship, abusive relationship, or the other way around, an unavailable person where there's not love, where it's just a friendship or not even that. I hear it all the time, people sleeping in different rooms. So many people I know, I'm no offense, because usually they say to me, my husband snores and I just can't handle it. So yeah, but that kind of relationship where the connection isn't there anymore, that still wires the nervous system up, because the person is not getting, the woman needs, all she needs is to feel loved and safe. That's it. And if that's not there, it heightens up a woman's nervous system. I imagine that's the same for a man. I haven't looked, I've looked into both the man and woman's brain and compared it, but I remember the one thing was a man can keep a woman happy very easily, make them feel loved and safe. They'll be a princess. Take one of those things or shut them down, they're going to be a devil. Complete change. But so if they're not, if they're going home to an environment that is not great, the chances of shifting that thing is, it's going to be gradual, it's going to be slow. It's until their nervous system, until they're safe in an environment where their nervous system can calm down, is that going to shift. And so when I'm working with people like that, I know straight away, when they're telling me what the environment is like at home, I know straight away I'm not going to have one of these drastic changes in the client. So my goal then, I work so fucking hard from the bottom up. Self-esteem, feeling good about themselves. What is it that you want in the future? I really shake the bottom up, because for them to be staying in that situation, unless there's secondary gain, like I live in a great house, I don't want to lose it, blah, 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 blah. I can put up with that because the benefits I get are great. I've got everything I want, don't have to do this kind of thing. But if it's a situation that isn't healthy, then to me, I'll do little things for weight loss, but boy, will I shake up the self-esteem, self-worth, what's going on in the background to have led them there. Let's get them to a place. And I tell you what, when they leave, when I hear they leave, their weight just goes short, because we've done all the work in the sessions. The nervous system calms down, because usually their food, everything cuts down, but the weight just kind of holds. And I know it's a nervous system protection thing. And suddenly it goes. The lady, I was in the Herald for a lady that lost about 50 or 60 kilos. And I just I only did 3 sessions of the 5 sessions gastric band with her, the process, cleared out a bit of work. But at the time we didn't have good results. She was going to work every day with this horrible boss in a new world. She was a psycho, horrible, mean boss that just went at her every day. When I found out how much weight she'd lost, I was blown away, because in those 3 sessions, we weren't really getting anywhere. For me, it was a lot around what was going on. And when we did the interview with the person, she said, it didn't go until I left my job. The minute I left my job, it just went, and it was because her body decided, I'm safe now. And because we had put all the good programming in there, because of everything else had changed, her body just went back to where it should be. And it was drastic change. Didn't even recognize the person when they walked in. So when someone is in an environment that is not safe, that is not healthy for them, we don't say, look, I'm not going to work with you, it's not going to change. But we keep on doing the process, but with a real undercurrent of giving them hypnosis recordings on self-esteem, giving them a real boost, and that's for men too. I have men come in, most of the time when I work with men, it's anxiety and depression. Sometimes weight. With weight, it always goes, like 80% of men always go back to the death of a loved one, either young or now. I can pretty much guarantee that's what I'll be doing with men. It seems to be so huge, so huge. It's always passing people on for men. And I think it's in a lot of spaces, when someone does pass over, they step up and they don't grieve it. They take on the organising role, looking after everybody. It's just the dynamics, and so they hold on to it, and that causes massive problems over time without even knowing it. But with men, like if the way the man's brain works is they need to have an environment where they do get time. So men need quite a big transition time from work to home. They need to have, the brain can't just switch from one role to one role. And this is not being bad about men or women or sexist or anything. It's just a reality. So if I'm working with men with anxiety and stuff, and they've got a high stress role, and then they're coming home to high stress family, and they've got a lot of high stress on earning and a big income, and they're not actively going for a run or doing something to create the space, we can work on anxiety and feelings, and it works quite well. But unless that space is created, the in-between space between the different roles, that high level of pressure cracks them to the point with suicide and stuff, it's quite high. And usually it's people that are doing really well that tend to do suicide and all that, because it's the high pressure. So I say to, like I would say to men straight away, what are you doing for you? And it's the same with women as well. But our brains, if you look at brain scans and the parts, how they fire, the woman can compartmentalize and do things. The brains work in a different way. So with men, it's about, like the last guy I worked with, he had left his house. He hadn't been able to go to work for months with massive anxiety. And we cleared the feeling, and it did go back to a death in a different country when he was there. But one of the major things was he had stopped biking prior. He was a competitive biker, and about he had a son, and his father was unavailable, worked, and he didn't want to be his dad. So he gave up biking, he gave up everything and just put everything into the son, which we go, what a great dad, how amazing. But what it actually did was his brain lost it, because he was doing a high stress job, coming home, doing the child, wasn't exercising, the personality type that needs to exercise, the one that would go more to anxiety. And so he cracked. And so we cleared the emotion, went back to work, but I said one of your jobs was to buy a new bike, which he didn't manage to pull out of his wife, but was to actually get back on your bike. And he messaged me a few weeks later that he was biking every day. And I said, the funny thing is, if your son sees you riding a bike every day, you're teaching him health. You're teaching him to respect himself and to have me time. I said, the things that you're actually teaching him doing there, I said, you can even, take him with you if you want to. But one of the things that he needed to do was to actually do that, to switch his mind back into space. And so that's, I don't know, we're talking about secondary gain, but I think what I'm getting with the conversation is making sure that for things to be perfectly in line, for us to get such a good result, the environment that they're in as they leave has to promote a calm nervous system as well. So the healthy habits, the me time, the walking. If a woman's stressed out, having a bath, having one thing that they have, because we've got to keep the nervous system down. And if we go deeper into nervous system, anxious people, we need to bring their nervous system down, which is listening to recordings, you know, breathing, calm. But if someone's in dorsal vagal, which is weight gain, the heart slow, no motivation, can't do anything. So the nervous system has gone from wired to under parasympathetic, underneath calm. The worst thing those people can do is listen to hypnosis recordings and have baths and stuff, because it's promoting an even deeper nervous system. And you find that with people that are overweight, can't stop, and unmotivated, what they need to do is they need to be out walking. They actually need to move. And I made a hypnosis recording recently called Trance Dance for people to turn off their lights. It's trance, it's giving suggestions, but it's pumped up psychedelic music with suggestions of moving the body. And if they can't move, they've got to move their hands on the chair, because it's actually the rhythm of the music that gets the heart beating. And as soon as the heart beats, the nervous system says, oh, we must be safe now because the heart's beating regularly. So it's not always about relaxation. Isn't that interesting? Another thing with me here, because my nervous system goes under, so I'm pretty much always in the deep down if I'm going into trauma. I actually have a drum and I bash. I've got a African big drum. And so I do drumming because your heart will match it. And it's fucking cool fun. So, you know, sitting there, if you're more likely to go into the lower one, so you're not an anxious personality type, but if you, you know, when you start having stuff going on, your body actually shuts you down and puts you into bed, or you start to gain weight, or you just don't feel like, if you're that kind of person, then to get your nervous system regulated, drum, or listen to music that pumps you up, or go for a walk. You've got to do something to beat your heart. Watch something really exciting on Netflix if you're into that. You actually have to do the opposite of what everyone tells you in trauma. You got to, so that's a really good thing that I've learned not that long ago, is that you are dealing, it's not always when you're traumatized, you're anxious. It's no, when you're traumatized, a lot of people, especially women, shut down, causing the weight gain and stuff. So, and we'll talk more about that in our zones. Exercises and things we can do. I even give people relaxation things to listen to, but I've also got one which is active breathing for people that are in dorsal, and it's just 10 minutes of breathe in, breathe out with music in the background. It's more rhythmic music, it's not relaxation, but it's actively forcing you to breathe for 4 and out for 4, not long breaths to relax it, but it's forcibly teaching the body to breathe again, because the people in dorsal vagal, you won't see their heartbeat, you won't be able to see them breathe, everything's slow and shutting down. It's like freeze, we're not moving because we're going to die type thing. So by giving, these homeworks and working with people on things, help them out as well, because get the nervous system calm, relaxed, clear the stuff out in the background, the clients are going to get good long-term results, not just an immediate one now. So the nervous system stuff is really cool. Let's go back to symbols. So the clients come in, they've had an emotion come into the room, you've stopped them mid-sentence, got them to close their eyes. You'll get used to doing that. Where do you feel it in your body? Does it have a sensation? It's in my heart, it's a tingling feeling. Okay, pull the feeling out. What does it look like? It's a black blob of blood. Okay, what do you want to do to that blob of blood today to completely let it go forever? So language is so important there, to completely let it go forever, I just want to throw it away. Okay, I want you to do that, but as you throw it away, I want you to see it disappear. Because what we don't want it in their mind is it to be over there, because they can go pick it up again, so disappear. Okay, let me know when that's done. It's done, sweet. So I want you to imagine now a light or a glowing ball or whatever you want to do, place it back into the area where the old feeling was, and just let that flow through you, every cell, every part of you. You'll get used to the language flowing through your body, and open your eyes. How are you feeling? Feeling good. Okay, so what we were talking about before was your mum and dad. You'll see them, they'll start talking and there'll be no emotion. They're not triggered anymore. Crazy. It's weird. It's weird. So like I said, you can target emotions if you want to, but the real change happens when it happens organically. You can notice words. We had a word the other day. we kind of triggered one accidentally the other day when I said to you guys the word gorgeous. You know, people got triggered. It's a trigger word. I have found that if someone keeps on saying to me, lazy, 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 I'm lazy. Oh, I just do that because I'm lazy. Oh, you know, I used to always be called lazy. I'll be like, I know that to me, it's a heated word. So sometimes, you know, you can close your eyes for a minute. I just want you to feel this. Lazy, lazy, lazy. I wasn't actually telling you to do that, Perry, but you're just guided to charge. I'd say that to a client, like lazy, lazy, lazy. And what they'll do is I'd make them sit in that heated word and see where the emotion comes up and just clear it. Because I know that the subconscious talks to us, the therapist, in many ways. The subconscious talks to us in a different way to the conscious. And I tend to not put much weight on what the conscious says. So I don't put a lot of weight on what the client says around why they're doing what they're doing, because now knowing that, you know, we can't work this shit out, we never know. So I listen to what they're saying, but I listen for the subconscious. The subconscious talks to you in emotions. It'll talk to you in repetitive words, emotive words, like they'll constantly say, I'll give you an example in a minute about a cancer one. And it'll talk to you in change of the body. So that's I'll be talking to someone and they'll be completely neutral, but their neck will start going red. When people, when they start getting emotional, they get skin color change. So they've got a good poker face, no emotion there, but their neck starts going red. And I'll be like, you close your eyes for a minute. Where do you feel that in your body? What do you mean? Where do you feel that emotion? It's rising up your neck. Where is it? It's in my tummy. No, so it's watching the subtle, and you get so good at body language. I'll be sitting with a friend. I remember sitting with a hypnotist lady, and she totally slid into an emotion. I saw her eyes change, and I said, oh, we should work on that. She's like, what do you mean? I said, I just saw the emotion come through. No, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. So and then it was like, okay, I'm going to leave this. You get so attuned when you get into the space for watching body language and emotions. You get really attuned to when people slide and change, and the quicker you catch it, the quicker you're likely to get into that real good stuff. So and of course that comes with time. I've been doing this for a long time now, and at the start I wasn't taught this stuff. So at the start I wasn't aware. So it kind of happened gradually. Now that we're talking about it, your mind is going to search for it. So you'll get this way quicker than I ever did. Just the watching for body language is very, very helpful too in friendships and, new relationships and all of this kind of stuff. Getting more acutely aware to shifts. It's very difficult to lie to someone when you get good at this stuff, because you just notice when someone's not, you know what I mean? So it does flow on to your life in general. You get really good at reading people. So that's how we do it. And I'm going to put you in a room, and I want you to try it on each other, just on something. It can be anything, like just any feeling. If you get stuck, try and keep it really basic. I'm not going to say try, keep it basic. Just pull a symbol out, change it. So if you've got a family member that pisses you off, there's a feeling. Think about them. If you've got something coming up that you're nervous about, if you've had an event in the past where you went somewhere and someone annoyed you, you could do anything. Just to have a bit of a taster. We all have an emotion about something. If there's a movie that you watch or a piece of music, I love to do it for music. If there's a piece of music when you think about it, it makes you sad. That's a trigger. If there's a place you don't like going to, because when you go there you feel sad, that's a trigger. I'll just quickly go through here. If the person did say that the voice isn't theirs, if you did ask, does it have a voice? And you say yes, whose voice is it? And it says, oh, no idea. Or, oh, it's my mum or whatever. You basically just get them to throw it into the corner of the room, saying, look, that's not yours, throw it into the corner of the room, right? What's it look like now? It might just stay that shape, especially if they don't know who the person is. It'll probably just stay that blob in the corner. If it is their mum or some kind of issue like that, they'll say, oh, it looks like mum. Sweet, this is not your stuff. Okay, I want you to create a light in the other kind of room. We're doing like a go home to God type thing. I want you to put a light in the other corner of the room, and I want you now to tell it to go. It's time for it to go. It's time for it to go. And as it goes, just any other stuff associated with that person that you're carrying draws into the light too. Let me know when it's gone. Make it very straight. If they're saying, oh, it's not going, it's not going, this is hypnosis. But when I count to 3, it's going. Do you know what I mean? You might have to be quite direct. As it's going, if they're saying it's not going, is there anything you need to say to them? They might want to say something. So the easiest way as you're starting out, if you were in that situation, is just to do whatever you need to do to get it to go, for one, to get the energy to go. But with it, when you keep on saying this is not yours, this is not your energy, this is not your stuff, let it go. Because it really isn't. It's somebody else's. It's somebody else's shit. It's just being held. As children, in those first 7 years, that children are in hypnosis and they're a sponge. And so when parents are arguing or when stuff goes on around them, a lot of the time what kids do is they want to try and make their parent, the people they love, happy. So they will naturally, Mum, let's go and can we go and do a picture? They're doing all of that because they know Mum's not happy and they're taking it on themselves. It's my fault Mum's not happy. So I'm going to try my best to make Mum happy or Dad happy, or, you know, this is just what kids do. And a lot of the time they can draw in the energy of the stuff around them because they believed it's theirs. And so a lot of the time when I am working with people, we literally are just sending away shit that's not theirs, that they've carried for 20, 30, 40 years in their bodies, heaviness. And when they pull it out and realize it's someone else's voice that belongs to that energy, it's just so, oh my God. And a lot of the time they haven't been able to heal it in the past doing different modalities and stuff, was there wasn't actually anything of theirs to heal. It wasn't theirs. It was just energy that had been taken on of somebody else's. Happens massively in relationships. So when you're working with someone and they've just gone through a breakup and they pull the feeling out, a lot of the time it's the feeling of the ex. And when you throw them in the corner and send them away, it's because all the situations and stuff that's happened in that relationship that's unhealthy was actually brought on by the other person's past experiences. And so the person is now holding on to their stuff and they're off doing their own thing and they're carrying the baggage of the other person through pain and hurt. So, and that's very hard to heal because it's not your stuff to heal. It's not your timeline. It's not your shit. And so it still kind of simmers around the energy of that person. So when you clear it out and just get rid of it because it's not your shit, it's so freeing because like I said, you can't heal other people's stuff. You can only recognize it's theirs and get it out of your body and send it to the light. I'm not one on sending energy back to people at all because it continues a conversation. It's better just to release it to the universe and let the universe deal with whatever it's gonna, how it's gonna deal with that. So I'm about stopping that connection of flow or the energy tie between people. It's better just to release it. So so that's what happens. I never used to teach that, but I find that when you do this, it's just so often other people's shit. And I always actually say, this is not your shit. You probably won't say shit, but I always do. You might say, this is not your stuff, you know, but you need to have power in it. This is not your stuff, man. Let it go. This is not your shit. This is not your stuff, you know. And if you were even just to do a visualization where you're here and maybe someone's had a bad mum or a bad dad, you know, had issues, and you get them to visualize you here and them there, you know, right, we're going to send this stuff away. It's not your stuff, you know. So you can do visualizations like that. Right. I'm going to stop the record.